What about you girls? Anything that stood out to you in the documentary or anything that was not said in the documentary that you wish people would know?
So for you guys, when you were doing the taping, what do you think is the hardest part about doing this? Was it difficult to talk about that, knowing that kids in your school might see it or kids that you know? Talking when it's really hard. Yeah.
I think talking on camera is, even though we live in a very digital age, it's not something we do that often to a wide audience. So that was pretty intimidating. But in my head, I just imagined all of you guys sitting here and just a crowd of adults and parents listening to what we had to say, and that made it a little bit better for me.
I think one of the things that stood out to me in the documentary, probably particularly because of the work that we do, is when Heather asked you the question about naloxone. And when she asked you all about naloxone, all of your hands went up and said, yeah, we have it at school. But when she asked if any of you knew how to use it, no one raised their hand. Has that changed for you since the documentary, or is that something that you've become now interested in knowing? Because some of you also raised your hand saying you knew somebody who had overdosed.
I have still yet to learn how to use it, but my dad works in medicine, so when talking to him about the documentary and my experience with it, he mentioned that there are several certifications you can get with it, and talked about the possibility of scheduling me one, so that might be something that happens in the near future.
Yeah, I still have no idea how to use naloxone, despite knowing multiple people that have overdosed. Thankfully, none of them fatal. And as far as I know, no schools that I've been to have ever had naloxone available.
I think one of the reasons that surprised us at the Institute is because Heather and I, and two of these are our children, by the way, in the interest of full disclosure. So obviously we haven't done our jobs. But I think that part of it is a lot of the schools, our experience have been reluctant to have it public facing. And so one of the things that Heather and I have been working on in partnership with several other organizations, including the West Virginia Primary Care Association, is to get naloxone and training and education through our One Box initiative in all of our elementary, middle, and high schools throughout West Virginia. And that work really began pretty much shortly before this was filmed. And so we now have 34 of the 55 counties on board with One Boxes and naloxones in the schools. But what became obvious to us from the documentary is that now we need the next step of helping those schools to educate the children on how to use it, because they're more likely to be with their friends when it needs to be used. And so that was really eye-opening for us.
And I just have a question for you guys. For kids that will be watching, not even kids, let's say for parents and administrators that will be watching this, what would you want them to learn about being a teenager? Or what do you think they most need to hear from this?
I don't know, but whatever y'all are trying to do now, not working, guys. We gotta do better, especially in schools.
I think a lot of kids get in their head, especially teenagers. When I say kids, I mean teenagers. A lot of teenagers get in their head with the struggles that they're facing in life. And we talked about some of the documentary, but I don't think it was emphasized enough that when you live in such a evolving world technologically, we're becoming more focused on our phones, and that's obvious, but when you really think about the echo chambers we create online, and when a kid is depressed, they're going to talk to other depressed people online or other people who are facing similar problems, and that doesn't really help anybody. Like, you may relate to these people who are going through the same challenges as you, but all you're doing is talking about the problem you're facing. No one's talking about solutions. And if they are talking about solutions, usually it's something that's not going to help you, like self-harm or drug use. And I don't think echo chambers are talked about enough, because from what I've seen personally, that's a really big problem where I'm from, and I'm sure where the other students on the panel are from. I don't think there's not much we can do locally about that. I think change with that starts at a higher level with the companies that produce these products, and they know what they're doing because they make money off of it. Other companies do too. I think at a local level, the most you can do is talk to your elected officials, talk to people who have a say towards these companies, and just speak out about it.
I had one last question, and then I am going to open it up in case anybody from the audience has a burning question. But be kind, they're being very brave, but Mia does have a microphone she's willing to bring to you. What is the one thing that you would want your teachers to know?
Build those relationships with your students, be there for your students, be understanding, accommodate for their issues, and just shout out to all those teachers out there throughout my life that have helped me so much. I really do appreciate those few that have been so helpful in my mental health and everything.
I'd say take the step to talk to your students a little bit more vulnerably. Ask them, like if they seem off to you, approach them and ask them what's going on, because even if there is nothing and they're just tired that day, you're looking out for them and you're showing them that cares. That has a ripple effect throughout the school. When one teacher is known as one who can be a friend to the students and help with their personal problems, other kids are going to gravitate toward that teacher. We have a lot of teachers like that at my school, and I'm very fortunate for that. And it does cause a ripple effect. And other teachers start acting that way as well. I think that can be very beneficial.
Any questions from the audience? Just raise your hand and Mia will bring the mic.